Welcome to the Non-Negotiable Living podcast, where we're building lives by design by creating non-negotiable habits around fitness, family, faith, and financial freedom.
Hey friends, welcome back to Non-Negotiable Living. Today, we're going to dive into something that's a little bit different than our normal topic, and because I just got back from a trip from Europe, I've had a lot of people ask me about jet lag, and I want to talk about how we can outsmart our internal clock and how to beat jet lag, because I find that as I get older, I'm in my mid-30s now, jet lag hits me like a ton of bricks, and even though I still do get jet lag, sometimes some of the symptoms are unavoidable. There are things that you can do to mitigate the symptoms, recover from it more quickly, make sure that your body gets back to homeostasis faster than if you did nothing. So today we're going to talk about jet lag. You plan your trip, you pack your bags, you're excited, and then boom, your body crashes when you arrive. You're wide awake at 3 a.m., you're exhausted in the middle of dinner. But I want to talk about what is jet lag, and more importantly, what can we do to avoid it? We're diving into the science and strategies that can help you feel your best no matter where you're going and how long you're traveling. So first off, what is jet lag? Jet lag is officially known as circadian rhythm disruption, and it happens when your body's internal clock, also called your circadian rhythm, gets out of sync with the new time zone you're in. So your circadian rhythm is on a 24-hour internal clock that regulates things like when you feel tired, when you're most alert, your hormone production, including cortisol and melatonin, your digestion, your body temperature. When you cross multiple time zones quickly, like on a long flight, your body doesn't automatically adjust. It's still on home time. This mismatch can leave you feeling foggy, tired, irritable, or even nauseous. And the more time zones you cross, the worse your jet lag. So we're going to talk about the biology behind it. There's a small part of your brain called the suprachiasmatic nucleus. It's a small region in your brain in the hypothalamus, and it acts like your body's master clock, and it responds primarily to light exposure to keep you on a consistent schedule. So when you travel rapidly across time zones, that exposure to daylight doesn't match up anymore, and your brain gets pretty confused. That's why when you land in Italy at 10 a.m. local time, your body still thinks it's 1 a.m. back in the States and wants to sleep. So melatonin, your sleep hormone, plays a big role here, and melatonin is typically released a few hours before bedtime when it gets dark. And when you're in a new time zone, your melatonin production doesn't align with the new schedule. It's still back on your original time zone. This mismatch causes trouble falling asleep at night, waking up too early, fatigue during the day, brain fog, digestive issues, and mood swings. So when I first started traveling, the internet was around, but it wasn't as readily available. I couldn't sit there at the airport and Google things like this. But I found out that when I traveled, depending on which direction I flew and how many time zones I crossed, my jet lag was worse or better. I didn't start traveling till I was 19, and the first international trip I took was to Italy. So I flew from Denver to Italy. So I was 7 hours ahead on the time zone. Now, typically what people would say is that jet lag is often worse when you fly east. And the reason is, when you fly east, you're essentially losing time. For example, when you fly from New York to Paris, you lose 6 hours. Your day is shorter and your body has to fall asleep earlier than it's used to. On the flip side, when you fly west from Paris to New York, it means you gain time. Your day is longer, your body has more time to stay awake before it needs to sleep. So our internal clocks are actually slightly longer than 24 hours, so it's easier for our body to extend a day flying west than to shorten it flying east. That's why adjusting to eastbound flights often feels harder for most people. Now, I've come up with a really good rhythm for flying east that makes it so it's actually easier for me to go that direction rather than coming home. So how can we mitigate jet lag? I'm going to talk about the strategy because you don't have to suffer through jet lag every time you travel. There are things that you could do to help mitigate it. However, some of the symptoms are still going to hit you no matter how hard you try. So there's 6 powerful ways you can minimize jet lag and support your circadian rhythm. Now, one is you can start adjusting a little bit before you travel. You can start shifting your sleep and wake times a few days before your flight. So if you are drastically impacted by jet lag, this is something that I would recommend. So if you're flying east, you could start going to bed a little bit earlier and waking up a little bit earlier. If you're flying west, you could try and stay up a little bit later and wake up a little bit later. And even adjusting your body's clock by 30 to 60 minutes can actually make a huge difference. Now for me, I don't implement this, but I know that it's worked for a handful of people that I know. Now, the next one is exposing yourself to natural light. This is something that I am huge on every single day, always, and especially when I travel to help get my body clock back on track. I am incredibly impacted by natural sunlight, and sunlight is everything when it comes to resetting that internal clock. So if you can get natural morning light in your new time zone as soon as you can, stay outside during sunlight, daylight hours, and avoid dark rooms or naps until you get your body clock back on track. So for example, I just went on a trip to Europe. So I flew from Arizona to Montreal, Canada, to Athens, Greece. And when we landed in Athens, it was 10 o'clock in the morning. So we left Arizona at 8 o'clock in the morning. We flew overnight. So I made a conscious effort to try to sleep for a couple hours when it should have been nighttime in Athens. Sleep, wake up at a normal time around like 5, 6 o'clock in the morning, Athens time, and then stay awake till we landed. And then when we landed, we immediately went to the Airbnb, dropped off our stuff, and left. And we went and had breakfast, we had coffee, we walked around. And I told my friends I was with, take off your sunglasses, let your eyes get the natural light and the UV so that you can wake up, get your body clock back on track. So the sooner you could get that natural light, the better. So research from Stanford and the National Institute of Health says that light exposure within 30 to 60 minutes of waking significantly anchors your circadian rhythm and helps melatonin production realign in the evening. One thing that I don't do, I'm incredibly impacted by melatonin and sleep supplements, but a lot of people will use melatonin to help their body fall asleep more easily in a new time zone. So we have to choose melatonin wisely though. 0.5 to 3 milligrams is usually enough. And you want to take it between 1 to 2 hours before your desired bedtime. You don't want to overuse it just a few days until your body adjusts, but if you use melatonin constantly, it can actually be a detriment and cause your body not to make melatonin. So melatonin is a natural hormone that your body releases, and if you're supplementing for it constantly, you can actually hinder your body's process of doing that. Air travel is incredibly dehydrating, and dehydration makes jet lag worse. So drink water before, during, and after your flight. I know when you're on a long flight and you're in the window seat and you have to cross 2 people to go pee, you're like, I don't want to drink a bunch of water. So if you could increase your electrolyte intake to minimize how much water you are drinking, but the efficiency with which your body is absorbing it, then you'll be better off. Also, avoiding excess alcohol or caffeine can mess with your sleep quality and hydration. A study in the Journal of Aviation, Space, and Environmental Medicine showed that dehydration exacerbates the physiological stress of changing time zones. So water really is your best friend when you're traveling. It's also going to help with bloating and water retention. I don't know about you guys, but I get off planes and my feet are like little fat sausages. I hold so much water in my legs from sitting because I'm not used to sitting most days. So when I sit on a flight for 10 hours, my body does not like it. Next best thing I can recommend is moving your body. Getting some gentle movement in as soon as you land, whether it's a walk, some yoga. Avoiding doing intense exercise on the first day, especially if you're sleep deprived, is good because the movement's going to help regulate your cortisol and boost your energy when you pair it with the sunlight. But if you try and do something too intense that first day you get there, your body stress is going to be through the roof. Also, sticking to the new time zone once you're there is imperative. So as tempting as it is to go nap or eat on your home time, don't. Eat meals at local times, go to bed and wake up based on your destination time, and avoid taking long naps. If you really need a nap, I'd say 10 to 20 minutes at most, because it's that consistency that's going to get your internal clock back on track. Now for me, I find that flying west is harder because when I fly west, typically the flights are longer. I don't get as much sleep or no sleep at all. So when we left Athens, we left at noon and we landed in Arizona at 8 p.m. So in my head, trying to stay awake that entire time and then go to sleep that night is the best option, but you get so incredibly tired because you're up for longer than 24 hours. So it could bite you in the butt because if you get a second wind, you're not going to be able to fall asleep very easily. So for me, this time around, I stayed awake the entire flight home. I didn't go to sleep. I got home, I went to bed, but my body automatically woke me up at 3 o'clock in the morning, which would have been the middle of the afternoon Athens time. So ideally, if I could have slept a little bit during the hours, that would have been my back home time. That would have been best, but I have a hard time falling asleep as is. So falling asleep in the middle of the day on that flight was not going to happen for me. So you have to do what works for you. but I do have some extra jet lag tips. So planning your arrival strategically is key. If you could book a flight to arrive in the morning so you can hit the ground running and get sunlight right away, that's best. So I really, really love red-eye flights. I love flying overnight. I love having a whole new day in a place. So if you can do that, that's best. When I flew to Thailand, we arrived at like midnight. So then we had to arrive, get our luggage, get to the hotel, go to sleep, and then wake up. And that really threw off my body clock. And again, I was flying west, which I find that flying west is always harder for me. Also, if you can avoid blue light at night, so using blue light blockers or limiting your screen time before bed, it will help with your melatonin production and getting it back on track. Packing sleep tools. Now, this is a big one. I have always been about packing magnesium and calming supplements that you can take every night while you're on your trip. I take magnesium every night when I'm home, but if you can start taking those while you're on your trip to get your jet lag taken care of, that's going to help you a lot. Also, bringing an eye mask and earplugs. I'm a huge proponent of the eye mask. I am incredibly affected by light in hotel rooms, on cruise ships. Like, I will be that person draping my clothes over the alarm clock and the cable box and the little light on the TV and covering up every single thing in the room that emits light. Well, one year my friend was like, why don't you just buy an eye mask? And I was like, that is brilliant. And in my head, I was like, I don't think I'll keep an eye mask on while I sleep. I don't think I can do that. In reality, it works great. Every so often it falls off my head while I'm sleeping, but for the most part I can keep it on, and it's a game changer for me. So I'll drop the link to the eye mask that I use down below in the notes. I'll also drop my Calm supplement link in there so you can use that as well. I always recommend earplugs as well. Earplugs are hard. They kind of freak me out. I don't like not being able to hear, especially in a foreign place. So typically if there's a lot of noise in a room, I'll bring my earplugs and I'll throw one in, the one that's like up, like if I'm sleeping on my left-hand side, which is the side I typically sleep on, I'll throw my right earplug in so I still have some sound I could hear through my left. Some people sleep with earplugs, no problem. It freaks me out. So I try it every so often if a hotel room or a cruise ship's particularly loud. But for other people that it wouldn't bother, I would highly recommend earplugs. I can drop the link to the kind that I use below as well. Okay, so final thoughts. You have to listen to your body. Jet lag is your body's way of saying like, hey, I need a minute to catch up. So be gentle with yourself. It's not a weakness, it's literally biology. And you can reduce the impact by being intentional with light, movement, hydration, and structuring your time. The more often you travel, the more dialed in your body's going to get to the rhythm and the recovery. But do remember that anytime you travel, you're going to come back holding your water weight, your weight's going to be up, you might be constipated. When you travel, you may have struggles using the restroom. You want to make sure that you hydrate, get morning light, try to wake up at a reasonable time every day, and that's going to help your body get back on track. All right, friends, that wraps up today's episode on trying to outsmart jet lag. So whether you're traveling for work, vacation, adventure, you deserve to feel good when you land. So take these tips and apply what works for you. Remember, your health doesn't have to pause just because you're changing time zones and traveling. So if this episode was helpful to you, make sure you share it with a friend who's traveling soon. If you want more tips like this, join me on Instagram at The Busy Mom Method or in my coaching community where we talk about living life that actually feels good. So until next time, keep implementing your non-negotiable habits and crushing your goals. You guys got this.